All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the RigER webinars that we usually host on Thursdays. Today's topic is going to be dedicated to oilfield rentals in RigER. And let me first introduce myself. My name is Nikolai Korniu. Some of you may know me, some may not yet, but will if you're interested in oilfield rentals. Chief Business Development Officer here at RigER. And today, as I have just alluded, we're going to be talking about a very specific configuration that we offer for the oilfield rental companies that specifically focuses on the rentals part of their business. So let me introduce today's presenters and the agenda. So from left to right, and again, if you're a user of RigER already and are tuning into the webinar just to refresh your knowledge about the rental configuration in RigER, so you already know many of these people, if not everyone. So let me start to introduce you to Indrey, Arsen, and Gleb. So this is the team that does the implementation as well as the training and the support for many of our users. So today's topics, today's agenda items that we're going to be covering are presented on the slide. I'm not going to read out, but feel free to browse through that. Generally speaking, we're going to be talking again about how the oilfield rentals are effectively managed in RigER, including the complexity of it, setting up the information in the system, as well as we'll touch on how we manage oilfield rentals on a mobile device. We'll talk about the very important thing, as everybody likes to know. The reports are very important, and so we'll cover them as well. You'll know how to manage your oilfield rentals, not only on a document level, but rather see it as a big picture. So without further ado, let's get going. It's a busy morning, and I'll pass the microphone to Gleb to start the presentation.
Thank you very much, Nikolai. Thank you for the introduction. Good morning, everybody. We're going to start this webinar first with a general overview of the general rentals configuration of the RigER software, and I'll talk about the different kind of functional groups and modules that are enabled for this configuration. My name is Gleb, as you may already know me, and I'm a Chief Operating Officer here in RigER. So let's start first with a general overview of functional groups or modules that are part of the general oilfield rental configuration of the RigER software. And sometimes this configuration can be pretty complex because we are able to configure the database and the software itself for your specific needs and requirements, depending on your business processes, depending on your business operations, and different kind of business branches or business departments that you use in your organization to provide different kind of services. And depending on the complexity of your equipment, depending on the complexity of services that you provide, the configuration of your software also will be different because we have an ability to enable or disable different modules flexibly. But generally speaking, this is the core functional groups or types of operations that you may have in your configuration. We usually start with rental service agreement as the part or as the piece of the sales module where you configure your job, you set up the prices, and you set up your client for this job. And basically, you get an approval of the quote that you sent right away from the rental service agreement. Sometimes, as you may see on the left side, we may have a subrental module enabled because the subrental module is used by the companies who use this third-party equipment that don't belong to the company itself. But if you subrent the equipment from someone else, you probably may be using this subrental module, which gives you an ability to track equipment of the other vendors. Then we are moving along, and after the rental service agreement, we may have two modules enabled, which is reserves and backups. And I'll talk a little bit more about each of these modules later. But generally speaking, this may be a part of the general configuration. Then, as the next step, you will be working with the rental tickets, which are responsible for dispatching the equipment and assigning particular people to a job or to a specific ticket, and collecting essential information about their time that they are working on the job, and specific assets and unique serial numbers that you are using for this job. You also may have a field ticket enabled, because the field ticket is responsible for the services provision mostly. Also, you can track your employees' hours for each individual ticket, and you can use the consumables or some kind of supplies in the ticket which will support your job. You also may have different types of rental ticket, because depending on the nature of the transactions that you have, it may be a delivery of the equipment or servicing the equipment, providing a maintenance of the equipment to the client upon their request, or picking up the equipment and bringing it back to shop for the next cycle transactions, which are maybe inspections, maintenance, or repairs. So again, depending on the configuration setup, you may have all of these enabled, or just any of them, or some of them. And depending on the business process, they can be configured that they will be following each other, or they will be just a standalone transactions in the configuration. Also, sometimes if you have a complex equipment that needs to be taken care of by third-party providers, for example, by the machine shop or a Rework shop, you may send your equipment to these vendors for the equipment rework, and you still have to track this equipment, right? So you need to understand where it was sent, when it was sent, and when it's going to be returned back to your stocks, so you can operate this equipment for your clients. So the Rework module is responsible for these operations. And we also have several supportive documents or supportive functional groups that allows you to track more operations with your equipment, such as intercompany transfer if you have several locations where the equipment is stored and you move the equipment between these locations. You can also assemble equipment into bigger pieces and bigger packages, and this is the assembly list is designed for. You also may have the internal job ticket to track all your employees' time for the non-client related activities. So if employees perform some kind of jobs or services to the equipment in your warehouses or in your yards, then you use these internal job tickets to track these transactions. And defective units list and item disposal documents are responsible for the moving the equipment to the need repair status, or just to the for the scrap of the equipment that is not going to be used anymore in your operations. So now a few words about each of these module. So Subrental agreement, Subrental module, sorry, as I said, is responsible for tracking the external equipment provided by external vendors. And we have three documents in this module: Subrental agreement, which is the general agreement with the vendor to use their equipment for under specific conditions, meaning prices and terms and time ranges. And then you bring your equipment in to your shop by using Subrental ticket in. So, and when you bring this equipment with a Subrental ticket in, the equipment gets the status ready to rent. So you now are able to use your equipment for your clients, but still you have a record in the system that this equipment belongs to some kind of other company. And when you return the Subrental equipment to the vendor, you generate a Subrental ticket out, and the equipment goes out of your stocks and goes to the no status status. So still you have the history of all transactions with these pieces of equipment, but that is not available for the jobs anymore. The next module is Reservation. So this module is used by companies who operate usually with larger entities. When you supply equipment and you send equipment to the customer, but you also want to reserve some pieces of equipment for this customer along the job, or customer call you and tells that we need this equipment, say in a month. So you can reserve specific assets in your inventory in your warehouses for this client, and this is the reservation module is for. And also a backup module when you send equipment to your customer, but you also want to have a few pieces of equipment available in some cases that sometimes maybe you need to replace a unit, or just for the sake of the be safe on the equipment side. I mean that if something is damaged or something has stopped working, you can back this equipment up with a reserved unit. Another module is the repairs, which is used by most of our clients, because definitely since you operate a complex equipment in the oil field, it needs to be repaired, it needs to be maintained. And almost after each job, you probably will inspect the equipment on the damages or on the some kind of parameters, technical parameters. And if the equipment needs repair, you will be using the repair cards, which are generated automatically after a rental ticket pickup when you pick your equipment up from the client side, or if the equipment stays at your location and sits on the yard and you identify that this equipment needs to be repaired, you will be using the defective units list, which also brings the equipment to the need repair status. And based on the repair templates that you can set up in the system, the specific parts and services will be automatically added to the repair card, and probably in some cases will be charged to the client or just absorbed as the internal costs by your company. And all these operations you can perform on the repair dashboard, which is the powerful tool to process the transactions, and also all the history transactions you will be seeing in the repair reports, which we will be talking about a little bit later in this presentation. Another module is the Rework, as I said at the beginning, that when you send your equipment to the third-party machine shop, you still need to track this equipment. And usually this happens after the repair card, internal repair card. So when you identify that equipment should be repaired, but you are not able to do that by your employees or by your abilities, and then you send this equipment with generating a purchase order first. Then you send equipment by using the bill of lading. So the equipment becomes not available in your system for the clients, but still it's in your system. And when the equipment gets repaired and returned to your shop, you generate a bill of lading in, and the equipment brings back to the ready to rent status. And you finalize this transaction by generating a purchase invoice, which collects all the information from all the previous documents in this chain, and issue this invoice and send this invoice and payment to your vendor. Another module that is responsible for working with the equipment is the inspections module. Inspections module is used by companies who have the abilities to inspect their units by themselves. And again, it may happen after each job when the equipment brings back to the shop. So based on the inspection templates and set of checkpoints in the checklist, you can trigger the inspection cards and the inspection process by many documents. So just an example, if your equipment needs to be inspected prior to the job or prior to be sent to the client, you can trigger the inspection card by rental service agreement. Or sometimes if you assemble complex units, you also want to inspect this whole unit before shipping to the customer, and you will trigger the inspection cards after the assembly list. So as you may see, there are different options how you can generate the inspection transaction. But basically, and generally speaking, the inspection card is the set of questions for your employees or for your field technicians, what should be inspected in terms of the technical state of the equipment. And also there are different types of inspection. You may have just an initial inspection, like we call it. This is one and single level of inspections when you inspect your equipment, and then it becomes available for the next job, or it needs to be moved to the repair, for example. Or you also may have the second level of inspections, which is the quality control. So this is the next event in the inspection process, and you may have a separate inspection template designed for this specific level. And internal inspection, when your equipment again is sitting on the yard and you just want to inspect it, maybe on a some kind of regular basis, on monthly basis, you just run the internal inspection and process this transaction. And again, as I said, almost all these transactions can be supported by and performed on the dashboards, or history of these transactions will be reflected in the reports. Equipment maintenance, another type of module. This is a little bit more complex because it's semi-automatic generation of the maintenance cards. This maintenance module calculates how many days left for the next maintenance event, and it highlights the items that should be maintained next, depending on the cycles and depending on the intervals that you set up for each individual type of equipment. So you may have maintenance cycles and intervals, and telling the system that a specific interval will be calculated either for deployed days. So when the equipment is working at the location, and for example, you need to maintain it every 21 days. So you set up these kind of cycles and intervals. Or for example, complex equipment should be inspected and maintained on each quarter or once a year. So then you can set up different cycles for the same equipment, and the RigER software will calculate these intervals automatically and notify you that this equipment needs to be maintained in such number of days. And again, maintenance dashboard is designed to manage these transactions and to track all these kind of events. And as I said previously, we have other operations, or like we call it supportive operations, for the equipment or for the services. For example, inventory cycle counting, when you can perform the counting of your inventory and do the balance checks every week or every month. You also may have a rental breaks for the jobs, when you can stop the rental period and the billing period for the client, having the equipment still at the location and tracking this equipment at the location. And rig movement is the document which is responsible for moving all the equipment that stays at one rig or at one location to another location in a quickly manner, by just clicking a few buttons, and all the equipment will be moved and all the documents will be generated automatically for a new location. Now let me pass the mic to Indra, our user support lead, and Indra will talk about the rental fleet management in RigER.
Thank you, Gleb. Hello, everyone. My name is Indra, and I'm user support lead here in RigER. So let's talk about rental fleet management. And the first thing where the rental fleet management starts is the types of item. And RigER provides you a few basic types to manage your all inventory. So the first one and the main one is a rental unit, and it can be in two different types, so serialized or non-serialized. So what's the difference in it? So rental unit, when it's serialized, so that means it has a unit number and it's tracked by each unit number. So every single movement, deployment, returning from the job tracked by the unit number. And the non-serialized are tracked only by the quantity in your RigER inventory. Another type of item what you can have in RigER is services. So every single service what you're providing for the client's job, you are listing it in RigER's inventory list and selecting a type as service. And the last one is the consumables. So the consumables can be goods or materials. So it's a separate type of items in RigER where you are selecting it for your parts, materials, and goods to store in RigER inventory. And moving further, we have not only the basics, the main one, item types, but together we have assets combinations. So it's assemblies, combo units, and packages. So let's briefly talk about each of it, what the difference are and what the main properties of these asset combinations. So let's start from the assemblies. So in the next slide, you can see, so what is the main property of this? The first one is it can combine several components. So for example, when you are assembling parts or smaller parts of equipment to one assembly, so you are putting all together and building a bigger equipment. And the another properties can be that it has a fixed price. So assembled unit has a fixed price and it can be used in several jobs. So for example, after you assembling it, you can use in one job, and if it's not broken, if it doesn't require any part to be repaired or changed, you can deploy it to another job after it. And the second one is a combo unit. So it's similar to assembly, but a little bit different. And the main thing is that you can combine all needed components and a different type of components, but the specific unit numbers assigned to the component are not fixed. So that means for every single job, you are selecting what particular unit number you will be using as a component in this combo unit. It together has a fixed price as an assembly too. And one more and main properties that you can allocate revenue by component. So if you require to track what each component earn the revenue during the job, you can allocate the revenue in the components for this combo unit. And the next one, item asset combination, what we have in RigER is the packages. So for each job, for each deployment of the job, you can build a separate package, or you can have preset packages for the job already. And here you can put together a different type of equipment or services in one package. So rental units, combo units, consumable services. So you are just combining in the package. And in the next slide, you can see that it provides it allows you to select a different type of items in the package. And the basic property is that packages price, the price for the package is a sum of all included components in the package. So for every single job, you can adjust the packages. And for example, if you're removing some parts of the package, some components, at the end, the price is adjusted accordingly, and it's summarized the sum of all included parts, and that's the price of the package. So these are the basics and the combination assets, what we have in RigER. Another important measurement of inventory management is the statuses of each equipment in RigER. And unit number statuses main purpose is to track and see at what state each asset is at the moment or at the particular moment. And you can see that we have a list of statuses to cover a different stage of each asset, such as if equipment is ready to rent, or if it's reserved for an upcoming job. You can see if equipment at the moment is deployed already, or if it requires repair by the status, needs repair, and so on, so on. So moving further, I could list all of unit number statuses into two groups. So the general statuses are available in each RigER database configuration. So these are the basics ones, and optional RigER unit number statuses. So these optional statuses can be available depending on what modules are enabled in your RigER configuration. So for example, if you have inspection module enabled, you will have for inspection or for service statuses. If you have Rework module enabled, you will have like for Rework and Rework statuses available in your RigER configuration and in your daily operations to be used for. So let's move further. And the next important stage to track everything in RigER is not only unit number statuses, but together is document statuses. So the main purpose to document statuses, like for example, in this slide, you can see the rental RigER available statuses is to track at what stage of the job, of the workflow, this actually at what stage the job is at the moment. So for example, when the job is starting, a rental ticket is created, there is an open status. And when you assign it to the particular field technician, and the field technician, usually they're using RigER mobile application when they synchronize and uploading all the tickets assigned to them to mobile app, the rental ticket status is automatically changed in process. That means you can see that field technician starting and will be working on this ticket on the particular job. Together with all this information, I should mention that some statuses are automatically changed in RigER after some triggers. As I mentioned previously, when ticket is already uploaded to mobile application, it's automatically changed status to in process. And for example, when ticket is invoiced, it's automatically changed status to as invoiced. All other statuses are manually changed, and you need to go to the ticket and change it manually based on what job was done already for this ticket and at what stage the work is. And by each status is actually for different roles in RigER. As example, for example, status invoice or approved and ready for invoice mainly is for the accountant roles users in RigER. So when the ticket is moved to status approved and ready to invoice, it allows accountant to know that, okay, this job is done, approved by the client, and it can be invoiced. So accountant can do next step and invoice the job. So let's move further, and another function which helps you to track the workflow of each job and to track together the equipment in RigER is email notifications. So email notifications helps for RigER users to be notified when a particular step of the job, particular stage of the job is reached. And they are getting an emails with particular information about what was done or what's required to be done with the information about the job and the ticket. And its email notifications are triggered by some particular steps in RigER documents or movements. For example, when rental ticket status is moved to status ready for invoice, it can be set up email notification for accountants that they would get email with the details of ticket number, receipt number, client, and they will know that, okay, that's the time when they need to go and invoice this particular ticket. So as I mentioned, email notifications are triggered by documents generation or by different status set on different documents. So these are the main steps and main ways how you can track fleet manage, how you can track and how you can manage fleet in RigER, and what functions can help you to do in RigER.
Thank you very much, Indra. And yes, that was helpful, and that lies a lot of light on the rental fleet management. Now, let's switch gears and let's talk about the inventory management as another part of the whole system and business operations. And I'd like to ask Arsen to talk about this section.
Thank you, Gleb. Good afternoon, or rather good morning, ladies and gentlemen, or used to good afternoon saying. Okay, so we've discussed the physical unit numbers, and now let's talk about the inventory and see what we actually mean by inventory. So let's move on to the next slide. So inventory in RigER, what we actually mean by it would mean the consumables, the goods, the parts and the spares and the materials you use to build those goods. Those are going to be tracked by quantity, which is the usual case. They are not serialized. And in most of the cases, those are going to be written off your balances when you consume them, you use them. So in front of you, you can see a single item card for a consumable type of the item. In this case, the exact type would be the material, which is kind of used to be to build goods. And you have a lot of information that you can utilize inside this card. You can set up the name, the type, the unit of measurement for each kind of a consumable item. You can also set up the model, you can also set supplier information, and so on and so forth. So when it comes to consumables, you have I would say most of the fields that you would need to operate with the type of the item, as well as the rental units, and all the information can be used later on in the RigER database to construct different parts of the analytics and reporting. So let's move on to the next slide and see the actual inventory dashboard, which is a part of the availability dashboard, which many of our old and new users already know. When you select the parts section on the availability dashboard, you are able to see all the information about all the consumable types of items that you have in your database, the on-hand quantity, ordered quantity if you have such, and the information about the prices and part numbers if you have indicated those in the system. Moving on, we can talk about the inventory consumption. And by consumption, we mean the documents and the processes and the ongoing stages that you use your inventory, and maybe you provide services and during which you consume inventory. Maybe you just deploy it to a client location, maybe you sell it, etc., etc. Now there are a lot of documents in RigER that can aid to this process, or rather actually do aid to this process, and the main ones would be the rental service agreements, where you would indicate the actual inventory line by line. You would indicate the quantity, the price, etc. Then you would use the rental tickets and field tickets to deploy those pieces of equipment, those pieces of inventory rather, to your client location. And you can also use them in the repair cards or repair lists, are basically templates to build a list of consumable items and parts that might be used for a certain repair. The maintenance cards, the item disposals, the sales tickets, there are a lot of documents that are going to be used when consuming inventory, and these are the main ones. And as I have stated, the inventory upon consumption is going to be written off your balances. So let's move on to the next slide and talk about cycle counting. Now, what cycle counting is it's basically an ongoing, I would say never-ending, regularly repeated sequence of checks that are performed on a specific subset of your inventory. So the difference between the stopping and counting your inventory in a regular manner would be that cycle counting would allow you to just take the subset, not stop your daily operations, and perform accounting operations on that subset. Now, if we move on to the next slide, we can have the scenario results for the cycle counting, and in most cases it's going to be to end in three ways. Our actual quantity is going to match our book quantity, which basically is most desirable, but rarely the case. The second probable outcome is going to be that our actual quantity leads us to deficit meaning that it doesn't match, it's lower than the book quantity that we have. And the third probable result is that it exceeds, so we have a surplus. So we have a document in RigER called parts counting results. So that document, there's a lot of actions that go into the process of building that document, and I am not really going to into much detail about that because we did a webinar a couple of weeks ago that describes every single smallest nuance that we have in this process. So just to give you an idea, we have the parts counting results, which we if we have a deficit, we will use the item disposal document, and we will correct our results and our book quantities. And if we have a surplus, we will use the initial balances document, and we will correct our balances according to that documents. Moving on, let's see what we have next. The most exciting part, I would say, dashboards and reportings. Now, over the past several years, RigER has accomplished and has managed to build a number of useful dynamic dashboards and reports. Now we have I would say over 20 dynamic dashboards in the system, a lot of useful tools for particular scope of operations for any business. And we have well over 100 reports. So on your screen, you see on the right part of your screen, you see most of the dashboards that you can access in the RigER database. And the location history dashboard, which is one of the most useful tools, it will basically give you an idea about the location. And in real time, you will see the items and the documents that are connected to those locations and the actual jobs. Well, a lot of detail, and there is a lot of filters that you that you can utilize to optimize and narrow down your results. Moving on to the next dashboard, this would be the activity log dashboard, and basically this is what it sounds like. It's going to be the log of the activities of your business, of your operations. It's going to show you all of your departments. It's going to show you all of your unit numbers that you have on hand and their statuses, which Indra was describing in very detailed manner, and the documents that are somehow tied to that particular unit numbers, etc., etc. And again, you can see that there are a lot of filters and there are a lot of options to narrow down the information to see exactly what you want. Next would be the dispatch rental unit dashboard. This is kind of a specific dashboard, and it will allow you to have a very detailed information about a specific unit when selected from the rental unit. And you will see a picture if it's reserved, if it's ready to rent, if it's sitting in your yard, if it needs repair, etc., etc. And this information would be enclosed within a week's time, but the current day, 2 days prior to current day, and 4 days afterwards. So considering this picture was taken, this screenshot was taken on 30th March. So you see 2 days prior to 30th, and we see if we have any planned operations pending for the specific rental unit, or if it was deployed, or if it's going to be deployed, etc., etc. Again, another useful tool if you want to kind of have a better idea about the specific piece of equipment that you plan to use in the future, maybe in 2 days, in 3 days, and it's really helpful. Next would be the repair dashboard. I mean, pretty self-explanatory. The repair dashboard is going to include all the information about your current repairs, about the history of the units that you have repaired, and will actually allow you to perform some actions on the repair cards and the repair register right from within the dashboard. Next would be the Rework dashboard. And as already mentioned, Rework is the process of basically having your repairs assigned to a third party. So you will have the actual items inside this dashboard, and you will be able to create to assign statuses to them and to see the status either for rework or rework. So you generate basically a bill of lading out, and you send out your pieces of equipment to the third party. And when the repair work is done, everything is okay, and they return your pieces of equipment in a good state. You generate the bill of lading in and receive your goods and your equipment, which are going to be ready to rent for your next jobs. Moving on, we talk reports. As I said, we have well over 100 reports in the system. To be honest, I won't be able to tell you the exact number, but it's going to be around 140, I believe. So different categories, different scopes, different types of information. And as you can see on your screen, this is the main section of the standard output of the standard configuration of RigER. And you will be able to see most of these reports in your standard configuration. If we move on to the next slide, we can see that most reports are going to share some common features. The main ones are going to be the filters. Obviously, you would be able to filter down and narrow down your search or your to search and to identify the type of information that you need. You will be able to use those filters. You can also export your reports to Excel, and for exporting, there is two types for each report. We have structured or hierarchical reports, or group reports that we call, and we have reports. Now, hierarchical reports are going to be combined with several groups and lines within each other, and on the other hand, the flat reports are going to be have the representation the same as the spreadsheet. So if you prefer to export your reports to Excel and perform some manual work on it, and you are always able to the format of the report to a flat type and generate it and export it to Excel to work on it easier. You can also obviously print your reports, and you can actually send them by email, like a PDF attachment or something. So let's see a couple of examples of report that we have in the system. One of the most useful ones, the location report. The report is going to show the information about the actual rental unit numbers that were deployed to a specific location, and alongside with it is going to show you the documents associated with it and the company and all the information that comes with it. So it's a pretty useful tool for a dispatcher, and this report has proven to be a very valuable tool for the operations team. Moving on to the next slide, we see the rental units turnover report. Now, this is going to basically show the beginning and ending balances of the time period that you have selected, as shown in the top left side of the report. You set the time frame and you get the results, what you had, meaning of the unit numbers and the rental units, what you have right now, and what was the turnover within that time period. Moving on to the next slide is going to be the need repair report. And this is going to be used for your repairs, and basically said, when a unit number gets a status of need repair, it's going to be shown here. Now, there are several other options that you can get your actual equipment to be shown in this particular report, but the main purpose is the actual status. Main base is the actual status of the unit number, which the system reads and shows the unit number, particularly in this report. The next report would be the inventory on hand report, which is actually the report that we use as a base when we do the cycle counting we just discussed a couple minutes ago. This report is going to show you all the particular consumable items, materials, goods, parts, spares that you have in the system with the quantities, according quantities, and the book values if you have indicated those in the system. So another useful report if you're in a need to understand and get a better picture about your inventory. So this report alongside with many other inventory reports can be useful for that purpose. Now, another very, very interesting and important actually feature, I would say, and a tool for a RigER system, RigER platform users, reporting. Now, all of our reports can be emailed on a pre-scheduled automatic basis to any kind of recipients, be it internal from within the company or be it some other people that you wish to send a report to, but they are not in your database or somehow not related to your company. So you select the actual report, you build a email reporting schedule, and based on that schedule, the report or the type of the report, sometimes you will need to modify the actual parameters and to understand which type of the report with which kind of information you would like to populate. And that report is going to be sent to all the recipients indicated in the emails tab based on the schedule that you provide in the schedule tab. So very useful automatic tool, automation tool that is particularly good when you don't even have time to go inside the system and try to generate a report. This is going to be sending the pre-scheduled report to you. So just open it up and see whenever it's convenient for you. I believe this is it on my part, and I would like to pass the microphone back to Gleb to discuss mobile oilfield suit.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much, Arsen. And we are moving along the presentation. We're coming to the end, but I'd like to discuss a very interesting and useful tool of the whole RigER operating system that you may use lots of the functional capabilities of the RigER that we've discussed previously in the mobile applications. And we've designed and we've created several mobile applications of the RigER database designed for different purposes and for different responsible employees. For example, the field ticket application is the most used by the RigER customers and RigER users. The application with the yellow icon is designed for the field technicians who can receive their rental field ticket, service ticket in their mobile device and work with this information right on the screen of the mobile device. Or, for example, the Oilfield CRM application is designed for the sales employees who can generate new quotes and set up new contracts and agreements with customers right on the screen of the mobile device, send these quotes to them for the signature or just for review via email, and having all this information in the mobile application. We also have one of the applications on the bottom with a red icon is the purchase orders, where your employees can submit a purchase request for needed instruments or supplies or some kind of smaller equipment, and they can do it again on the purchase on the mobile device, taking a photo of the invoice or of the some kind of information about the equipment that they need to purchase, and send this purchase request for approval to the purchase manager. And once this is approved, they receive the notification back to their mobile application and they can process the purchase. So different applications work in different modes. Most of these ones that you see on the screen, they work in the offline mode. It means that you can synchronize your mobile application with a cloud database, get all the updated information to the application, then work with this information and these tickets in your mobile application, even without the internet connection, because that happens most of the time while you're in the field and there is no probably internet coverage. So you still can work with the tickets and enter information and change some information in the tickets. And then when you're back to the internet connection, you can sync up your mobile application with the cloud database, and all the new information that you have entered will be synced up to the Office application, and all the employees will see this updated information. And we have another application that works in the online mode when you have a stable internet connection. And this is actually your Office application, but in the mobile device, where you can work pretty much with all the documents that we have discussed and generate different kind of transactions right in the mobile application. So just a few words about the mobile application capabilities. So basically, the general idea is just to give an access to electronic and ticket to the employees, so they can read all the details about the jobs, about the equipment. They can add equipment and services, change the quantity of these services, add their time on each ticket, the start time and the end time of the job, and add any comment to the ticket. So if there is some kind of additional information that should be communicated to the office, they can leave this comment, and this information will stay in the system forever and will be visible to all the related parties. Also, another great feature that we've just recently added, it's a scanning of the barcodes on the mobile device. So if you're using the barcodes on your equipment, you can scan it and just quickly select this equipment in the tickets. You can collect signatures on the mobile device if this is required, and this is the part of the process with your customers. So this signature will be attached to this specific ticket and will be used in the print form as the proof of the approval of the ticket. You can also attach any external documents and photos to the tickets by using the camera of the mobile device, and you can send these tickets generated in the mobile device as the PDF attachments to your customers by email. And you also may receive email notifications about changes in the tickets that is generated automatically by the RigER software. So, and all in all, speaking of the whole idea of the RigER software, the RigER configuration for the rental operations and for service operations also is designed to combine and unite all the employees of the company in one system, and to make this communication process smoother, and to exchange information faster, and to have one source of information in one place. But at the same time, different people can work with different documents, having different levels of access to the documents, to the system, and working on different devices. Either it's a laptop devices on Windows operating system, or Apple devices, in using the tablets, using the mobile devices, phones. So, and pretty much all these capabilities that we have explained to you today, they are available on different devices. So that's a powerful tool for your rental operations to have, and to make sure that your employees have the right tools to perform their job more efficiently and with more productive way. So I think that we've come to the end of this presentation, and now if you have any questions, please submit them to us via the chat on the control panel, or just book a demo with us, and we can show you how the RigER system will work for your specific case once we know what are your requirements. So you can go just to the RigER website, rigER.us, and click book a demo button, or just give us a call, and we'll talk to you and discuss all your needs and all your wishes in terms of the operation management software.
All right. So thank you very much, Gleb. And I'm looking at the list, and surprisingly, there's no questions, which means that probably what we've delivered leaves no questions to be asked. So on that note, I think we can wrap it up for the day then.
Great. Thank you very much. And I appreciate everybody's attendance today, and that you've been with us. We'll talk to you next week and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.